Thank you all so much for joining today's webinar on enhancing parent-provider communication with technology. We are just going to give folks I'll start in about a minute or so, just giving folks a chance to find the Zoom link and get settled. Hi there, welcome in. You're going to give it just another minute or so, and then we will begin.
Good afternoon.
Hi there. Hi, Ray. Okay. Let's just let one other person in. I'll give it just one more minute. Perfect. I see some other folks trickling in. When I see 11:32 on the clock is when we will get started. Okay, I'm seeing 11:32 on the clock. So let's get started. Thank you all so much for joining. Welcome into today's webinar on enhancing communication with technology. As childcare providers, you'll understand that effective communication with parents is essential. The information contained here has been prepared by Civitas Strategies and is not intended to constitute legal, tax, or financial advice. The Civitas Strategies team has used reasonable efforts in collecting, preparing, and providing this information, but does not guarantee its accuracy, completeness, adequacy, or currency. The publication and distribution of this information are not intended to create, and receipt does not constitute an attorney-client or any other advisory relationship. Reproduction of this information and recording of this content, including the use of AI, are expressly prohibited. Only non-commercial uses of this work are permitted. For today's conversation, before we dive in, let me quickly explain what we'll be covering today. So, this webinar is specifically designed for you as childcare professionals looking to enhance your communication with parents through technology. We'll explore various tools, strategies, best practices, and other actions that you can implement in your programs. My goal is to provide you with practical solutions that you can begin using right away to improve parent engagement and overall just streamline your communication processes. We'll also take a moment to look into some common mistakes just to be aware of when implementing or updating any type of technology within your childcare business. So, I want to take a moment and acknowledge why communication is so fundamentally important to what we do, right? Effective communication with parents forms the foundation of quality childcare. Think about it, right? So, it's going to help you build trust with families when they can see and understand what's happening with their child throughout the day. It also creates continuity between home and a childcare environment, which we all know is vital to child development, right? Research shows that when providers and parents communicate well, children actually experience better developmental outcomes. And also, right, in today's competitive childcare market, strong communication can really differentiate your program from others in your area. Parents often choose programs based on their comfort with the communication style and frequency, right? So, recognizing that the way in which you effectively communicate with parents can make a really big impact on the success and longevity of your childcare business. So now that we've taken a moment to establish why communication matters, I want to take some time to understand the challenges we're all facing in this area, right? So by identifying some of these common obstacles, we can better appreciate how technology can help, right? How some technological solutions can address these obstacles. Thanks for joining. So as childcare providers, right? We know that you'll face multiple challenges when it comes to parent communication. Sometimes it's a time constraint issue, right? Those busy drop-offs and pickup times aren't always conducive to meaningful conversations, right? You're managing multiple people or multiple children rather at once while you're trying to share important updates with parents who are also often in a rush themselves. So documentation and record keeping even adds another layer of complexity to these moments, right? On the parent side, today's families are increasingly tech savvy and have grown accustomed to real-time information in many aspects of their lives, right? They often want regular updates throughout the day about their child's activities, meals, naps, various learning moments, etc. Parents nowadays, there is an expectation for convenient access to information on their phones, on their computers, on their devices, right? Coupled with that, parents also want photogenic, right, and video documentation of their child's experiences. It's no longer enough to say, we had a great day, right? Parents want to see it. They want to see the updates. They want to see the photos, right? I'm sure you all have experienced a parent or a caregiver who is just overjoyed with seeing their kids, right? A photo of their kids during playtime or during an event, right? So it creates this more strong connection between you and your parents, right? Which then ensures that they stay enrolled for longer. That means they are going to be more likely to give you word of mouth referrals, right? We want satisfied parents here, and communication is a really important factor in parent satisfaction. So, what happens when this communication maybe breaks down? And I don't want this to sound dramatic. I just want to say this to really emphasize the importance of communication is that the consequences can actually be quite significant for your childcare business when you don't have a really strong communication plan. Parent satisfaction, right? And that level of trust diminish quite quickly when they feel out of the loop regarding their child's care. With this, right, what does this create? It often leads to more questions, more concerns, sometimes even more confrontations that take up even more of your time, right? For your staff, this is also impactful, right? Poor communication system create additional stress that can contribute to burnout and turnover, right? And turnover and burnout maybe is something that we can't necessarily afford in today's staffing climate, right? On the child development front, when providers and parents aren't effectively sharing information, we also miss valuable opportunities to collaborate, right? Collaborate and support this children's growth and learning. And ultimately, communication issues can affect your bottom line through enrollment problems, negative reviews, right? In our digital age, one parent's negative experience with communication can quickly become visible to any potential prospective parent through online reviews, social media, your Google business page, right? And I so commonly see this negative feedback loop with childcare business owners that I work alongside, right? So you don't have enough time. You have so many different tasks on your plate that it's hard to prioritize communication, right? Maybe then parents or your staff members are having to ask more questions or they're having to reach out or there's more confrontations. And so that then just takes up more of your time, right, to address those as they come up, which then leads you to less time to implement, right? And so using technology is a great way to kind of shut off that, right? To slow that wheel or maybe even shut it off entirely of this negative cycle. You're giving yourself time, more time back, which is then in turn creating more parent satisfaction. They're getting more timely communication. They're asking less questions, right? Giving you even more time back, right? So, how can you flip the direction, make it more positive using technology to give you more time, to make parents feel more satisfied, to have more effective communication, and just overall help your business's bottom line thrive? So, technology, right? Now that we understand the potential challenges, right, of not having a really clear communication channel, I want to explore all of the different ways in which technology can help address them. And with this, I always think it's a really important little asterisk just to put out there is that technology is here to help you. Technology is not here to replace you, right? I think, especially for childcare business owners, you are your business, right? A lot of times you are why people are enrolling, right? Your care, your demeanor, your background, just you. And so if you replace that with some robot, right? You replace your communication with some tool, that's maybe stripping one of the reasons as to why a parent and a family and a child continues to stay engaged with your business, right? So I worked with a childcare business owner once back in the day who was looking into using this AI phone answering system for her calls, and she was like, "Oh, I'm just trying to get some time back." But upon reflection, she realized it actually wasn't the trade that was going to be beneficial for her, right? Because she realized, hey, I'm actually having really important, valuable conversations and connections with parents and staff by having these conversations rather than an AI bot, right? So instead, she used various other technology tools to make those calls less frequent, but then when they did happen, they were meaningful, right? So once again, technology is not meant to replace personal interaction, but rather enhance it, right? Make it more consistent and make it more efficient for all parties involved. Technology offers three key benefits when it comes to communication, right? First, it's improved efficiency. Technology allows you to automate routine updates like daily reports, meal notifications, schedule reminders, etc. Digital systems exist and they dramatically reduce all of the manual documentation and the paperwork. There's no more lost permission slips or illegible handwritten notes here, right? Technology can really help to ensure that things are clear. Second, technology, as I said, helps build transparency and trust with families, right? So these digital tools provide essentially windows into the childcare day that weren't possible before. Parents who can see photos of their child, right, engage in an activity, or if they receive real-time updates, they are going to feel more connected to your program. These tools make it really easy to document and share those special moments and milestones that may otherwise go uncommunicated. And then finally, digital communication creates permanent, searchable records of your interactions with families, right? So no more wondering, oh my gosh, did I tell the Johnsons about that upcoming field trip, right? It's all tracked for you. A lot of these technology solutions also support your licensing and your quality rated requirements by automatically documenting aspects of your program that regulators want to see, right? This level of professionalism in your record keeping not only helps with compliance, but it also distinguishes your program as organized and thorough, right? So this is a win-win. It's helping efficiency, right, for both parties involved, making it easier for you to communicate and making it easier for parents to receive those communications. Provides transparency for you and for the parent, right? Giving them a space to feel involved throughout the child's day. And then record keeping, right? So helps you stay on top of what message went out and when, right? You're creating all this data, right, that you're putting in your communication tools, which we'll go over examples in a moment, and you're able to then use that to keep track of what's actually going out, right? Oh, did I send this form? Did I send this document? Did I track this record? Using technology helps you to track. right? It kind of takes this mental barrier almost, or this mental load of remembering, reminding, right? And also a lot of times if there's a form that's not filled in, for example, these tools will remind for you. You're not having to go follow up, right? It'll send one, two, three pings in the certain ways in which you set it up. So digital communication tools through technology is always going to be something that we recommend. With that, right, the world is kind of your oyster. Now that we understand the benefits, there's a whole range of technology tools that are available to you, right? So I want to explore the kind of options that we have here and also how to select the right ones for your specific program. Remember, the goal isn't just to adopt technology just so that you have technology, right? The goal is to find a solution that addresses your particular communication challenges. Whenever it comes to implementing a certain type of technology, right? I think sometimes there's so many options out there that it can feel a little overwhelming. I also notice that sometimes we try to find the most complicated and in-depth tool, right? Because we're like, oh, let's do the thing that can do it all. My rule of thumb is, right? If it is something that you will not use, don't use it, right? If you're trying to look into this suite of tools and there's a coding in the back end and you're setting up all these automations and this is honestly not really aligned with how I operate, that's okay. Find a simpler version, right? Do some research here. The best tool is the tool that you will use. Wonderful. So let's talk about some options. The main categories of technology tools available to childcare providers typically fall within these buckets, but there's obviously a lot of other categories outside of what you see on your screen. So, first, we have comprehensive childcare management apps. A lot of times, these are also referred to as CCMSs, childcare management systems. Lots of different options here, right? Brightwheel, Hi Mama, Tadpoles, ProCare. There's some other options as well. Playground, right? Child Pilot, Daily Connect. If there's one tool that you begin to implement within your business today, I want it to be this childcare management app if you do not have one. These are all-in-one solutions that typically offer all of the features or most of the features that you would need running a childcare business. Attendance tracking, right? Daily reporting, photo sharing, messaging, billing. These are apps that are specifically designed for your industry of childcare business, right? Lots of other features that can be in this platform, depending on the option that you choose. Sometimes they'll help you with CACFP reporting. They'll help you with curriculum management. Sometimes they can even link to external tools, like if you're using QuickBooks or FreshBooks for accounting, right? They can integrate with those third-party applications. But when it comes to a childcare management app or a childcare management system, the this is so helpful once again for both parties involved. It's helpful for you as a business owner because everything is all in one place, right? You can see enrollment trends, attendance data, right? Forms, enrollment forms, billing, all of that is in the system, right? And with that, it also makes it way easier for parents to see what's going on, right? Maybe, instead of having to check this email and then check this group and then check this text and then also reach out and then scan this QR code, it's all in one application, right? And most of these platforms, they have a provider admin side and they also have a parent side, right? Most of them have apps that you can download right on your phone for ease of use. Definitely, if you do not have a childcare management system, I'm going to extra credit here. After today's session, do some research. Look into the options that you see on your screen. Maybe you see some other ones as well. If you already have a childcare management system and you're loving it, awesome, right? I do have an extra credit for you, and it's look into the feature list, right? Maybe you're taking advantage of the billing and the enrollment tracking, but you're not actually using the parent communication side. Or maybe you are using the parent communication side, but you haven't really explored it yet for CACFP reporting, right? So, how can you take advantage of this tool that you already know, you already use? As I say, the best tool is the tool that you will use, right? If you're already familiar with the interface, you already have your data in there, see how you can really take advantage of all of the features that likely you're already paying for, right? Make the most out of that investment. Childcare management systems. Second kind of category is messaging apps, right? So there's simpler messaging platforms like WhatsApp is one, Group Me, Remind. These focus primarily on text-based communications, and this could be a really awesome starting point if you're new to technology tools, right? So sending information about an event that you have coming up, or a reminder about late fees, or whatever, a picture of the entire your entire staff during staff day or whatever it may be. Right. So this is a great opportunity to get parents involved here through a simple messaging platform. Web portals is another option. So either this is through your existing website or dedicated parent portal systems. This can provide secure access to information and resources, right? So what this can look like, maybe it's your own website where families and caregivers can log in and they get updates and pictures there. Whenever it comes to websites, public facing. I'm always going to do a big asterisk here, and this is applicable to the next three categories as well. Be cautious of what you are sharing that is public, right? Thinking about privacy protections, right? Maybe some parents don't really want their kid's photo out there, right? Or maybe they're trying to, maybe you don't have that photo release form, right? Children's data, especially with photos, right, is very highly protected by the law. So you always want to make sure, ask yourself, hey, is this something that I can post publicly, externally, right? Or how can you add in like that privacy feature so that you can share communications and updates? Maybe it's just with that family, right? Going into a little tangent here, when it comes to photos, I'm always going to say, take a moment, look at the photo. What's in the photo, right? Maybe, yes, okay, great. You took a picture of the Shining Star student holding their drawing and you want to send it to the parents. What's in the background, right? Is it a little messy in the background? Is there a kid crying in the background? Is there a staff member looking a little sassy in the background, right? So take a moment. Yes, the intention is great. I see that. But can you take a moment just to ensure, hey, is this photo doing good? Right? Is this going to make parents happy? So I always like to say, when you're sending a photo, awesome, right? Parents love photos. They love to have that window, that snapshot into their child's day. Just make sure, right, that the photo that you're sending is one that you actually want to be sending, that is actually representative of your business in a positive way. Another category for technology, communication technology options here is video sharing, right? So maybe it's private YouTube channels, emphasis on private. There's also a lot of similar platforms out there that allow you to share classroom activities or presentations with parents. You can do Vimeo is another video sharing, etc. I also think Zoom is a wonderful platform to use for especially parent teacher conferences, right? Having meetings with parents through a Zoom platform can really ensure, hey, right, I'm creating this channel for communication and connection, even if maybe the parent can't come and do this in person, right? There's so many different web-based video platforms out there outside of Zoom too. Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, even if it's a FaceTime or a video chat through your video, your business email rather, right? So many different options there to ensure that parents still get that face-to-face connection, even if they can't do so in person. And then the last bucket here is social media, right? Social media platforms like private Facebook groups, Instagram accounts, they can really create community. and showcase your programs. However, they do require careful privacy management. Once again, please make sure that if you set up any social media platform for your business, you're making sure that you're looking at what you're posting and you have all the necessary privacy controls to ensure that you're protecting, right, the data of the children and families in your care. I just ran through so many different options, right? And even with that, that's maybe one teeny, 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 tiny fraction of the list. There are so many options for different tools, technologies, platforms, apps, websites that you can use to satisfy, right, different types of communication options that you need. But with that, don't just jump on the first one you see. When selecting communication technology, there's several important factors to consider. First, ease of use, right? Once again, if this tool isn't easy for you, right, or isn't easy for your staff or your parents, it will not be used, right? If it's difficult, if it's complicated, it will not be used consistently. So look for solutions that typically require more minimal training and also work well on various devices. Right. So if you're using a program, if you're trying to FaceTime someone through your Apple device, but you know, hey, this Android user is not going to be able to do it, maybe you use a different video platform. Also consider cost effectiveness, right? Most digital tools follow either a monthly subscription model or a one-time purchase. When evaluating cost, calculate the potential return on investment in terms of time saved and also increased parent satisfaction. With this, I also love ask for a free trial. If there is a tool that you're looking into and you said, hey, it's a subscription, most of the time, sometimes, right, you can reach out to their customer support and you say, "Hey, I'm interested in this tool. I'd like to start with a free trial." Right? Doesn't hurt to ask. If they say no, fine. All right. Maybe you still continue to pursue it. Maybe you look at a different option. Ask for a free trial, right? See if there's something where you can test out the tool, test out the platform before you've made the commitment, you've purchased, and you start to migrate and implement all of your data and all of your communication policies and channels in there. Another one is security and privacy. Once again, these are critical considerations. Make sure that any tool you select does have very strong data protection measures and is compliant with the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, or COPPA. Um, right? Always make sure that you're establishing clear parent consent processes for any technology that you implement, right? With this too, I think sometimes we all love the word free, right? When it comes to like a tool or a technology. If I'm seeing a free app, awesome. I love that, right? We can use this on a budget. With that, be mindful of what free means, right? Is it free because it's not secure? Is it free because there's a bunch of ad pop-ups, right? Both for you and for your parents. So imagine, right? You're using this app, and I have this wonderful tool that I want to start implementing within my childcare business, and it helps with check-in and check-out. But every single time a parent goes to check in their kid, they have to watch a 30-second ad. Okay, the intention, right, is increasing parent satisfaction, but if a parent's already running late and they have to watch a 30-second ad, I don't, how will that actually impact satisfaction? So, yes, right, budget friendly, recognizing the difference between free, budget friendly, or free, right, just doing it to do it because it's the option there, right? For integration, always consider, okay, hey, how is this new tool going to work with your existing systems and whether you can easily export data if it's needed, right? So if you're looking to implement a childcare management system into your business, right? Is that in addition to the existing apps that you have, or is that in replacing, right? And how can you ensure that that is communicated, right? Communicate the change to parents, communicate the change to staff. If there is a new communication channel that you're using, make sure that you give parents the information and the tips and the tricks and the time to ensure that that system is set up on both ends, right? Maybe it's a video, maybe it's a little poster or flyer that you hand out during check-in or check-out with instructions, right? Make sure that you are communicating the change of platform. And then finally, right, different types of childcare programs have different needs. Large centers maybe need that all-in-one management system with multiple users' accounts, right? Maybe family childcare providers often just need a mobile-friendly tool that one person can manage easily throughout a busy day. So, when you are looking into trying to figure out which communication technology to implement within your business, consider these options. Once again, ease of use, budget friendly, security and privacy, integration, right? And plus also communication and training to your parents and staff, and then program type match. So now that we've covered the types of tools available, I want to shift our focus to how you can develop effective strategies for using these tools, right? Having the right technology is just the first step, but how you implement it, that makes all the difference in its effectiveness. The foundation of effective digital communication is a well thought out plan. Start by defining the different types of communication you need to deliver and their appropriate frequency. Daily updates may include meals, naps, and activities, right? Where weekly newsletters could cover upcoming themes or events. Emergency alerts require immediate attention, whereas routine reminders can be scheduled in advance. Next, you also want to clearly assign staff responsibilities. Who is posting daily updates? Who approves content before it goes out to parents? Who responds to parent messages and within what time frame, right? I love the idea of creating templates, right? Templates so that your staff can use it for consistency and also to save time, right? And also to ensure that all of the necessary information is included in each communication. Right. So develop templates for those updates, for those weekly newsletters, for those emergency alerts or routine and reminders so that you know, hey, the how, the when, the why, the what is all consistently included. But that too, right? Establish the consistent communication rhythm to help both your staff and parents know what to expect, right? And so, for example, you will receive daily updates through our app by 5 p.m. each day, weekly curriculum notes every Friday, and our monthly newsletter on the first Monday of every. When parents know what to expect and when to expect it, they're less likely to feel anxious about missing information. They're also more likely to engage with what you send. And also, they're less likely to ask you questions that are going to be answered during those communications, right? Since they know, hey, I have this question, but I know that the newsletter is coming out on next Monday. I'm going to wait to see if the answer is in there, right? Gives you more time back, gives them more satisfaction too. Now let's talk about creating content that parents will actually engage with. Visual elements dramatically increase parent engagement with your communications, right? Photos that tell a story, not just posed pictures, but children actively engaged in learning help parents visualize their child's day. Another example, simple infographics can make complex information like developmental milestones or curriculum concepts a lot more accessible. Even short videos of activities and learning moments are incredibly powerful for helping parents understand your program's value. When it comes to writing your communication, use clear and jargon-free language. As educators, we sometimes forget that sensory exploration or executive function aren't familiar to all parents, right? Also, make sure that you're framing information positively. So instead of, oh, Alex really struggled with sharing today, try Alex is working on developing sharing skills and made progress today when dot dot dot. And always include actionable information for parents. What can they do at home to reinforce what you're teaching? These small adjustments in your content creation can really significantly increase parent engagement. Different age groups also require different communication approaches. So, for infant programs, parents typically want detailed information about care routines like feeding, sleeping, diapering, along with developmental milestones and sensory experiences. Toddlers, right, highlight emerging skills, language development, beginning social interactions. Parents of toddlers especially appreciate guidance on managing challenging behaviors they might be seeing at home. For preschoolers, showcase learning activities, pre-academic skills like letter recognition or counting, and how they're developing peer relationships. And for school age programs, always emphasize important project work, skill building, and growing independence. And this content, right, photo, video, general information you share should reflect these developmental priorities. And many digital platforms actually allow you to customize templates based on age group, which is incredibly helpful if you're serving multiple age groups within your business, right? Remember, the goal is to help parents understand what their child is experiencing and learning in the context of their developmental stage, further creating parent satisfaction and connection and trust to you and your business. Effective communication isn't just one way, right? It is a dialogue. Technology offers numerous options for also incorporating parent feedback into communication system, right? So how can, yes, you deliver communications to your parents and caregivers, but how can they deliver communication back to you? In-app messaging features allow parents to respond directly to updates or ask questions privately. There's also options for digital surveys and polls that make it easy to gather parent input on program decisions or input on just satisfaction levels, right? Comment sections on your updates. This can help to encourage parents to share observations or ask questions that may benefit the whole community. Overall, right, a well-rounded communication approach includes different types of messages. Proactive communication includes your scheduled, right, your scheduled updates, those newsletters, any type of curriculum information. Reactive communication responds to parent questions or concerns as they arise. Celebratory communication highlights achievements and special moments. Informational communication covers policies and procedures, and educational communication offers developmental insights and parenting tips. And so, when implementing two-way types of communication here, be sure to establish clear expectations about response times and which channels should be used for urgent versus non-urgent matters. And most importantly, demonstrate that you're listening by acknowledging feedback and explaining how it influences your program. I always say, right, there's one thing to act as a listener, right, or to create these channels for parents to respond to you, right? But if they're leaving comments and they're messaging and they're not getting any response, that's actually going to be more harmful in terms of parent satisfaction, right? Always respond, always act with kindness and professionalism in your responses. With that too, right? Now that we've covered the tools and the strategies, I want to discuss some best practices that can help you maximize the effectiveness of your technology enhanced communication. These are a lot of practical tips that I've seen work really well across various types of childcare programs. So, right, while we are focusing on technology today, it's crucial. As I said, I'm going to say this again. Digital communication should always complement but not replace face-to-face interaction. Use technology, right, efficiently and effectively for routine updates and documentation, which then frees up your in-person time for more meaningful exchanges, more meaningful interaction. Reserve face-to-face conversation for sensitive topics that typically would require a little bit more nuance or empathy, right? So use those precious drop-off and pickup moments for relationship building rather than information exchange, since that information exchange can happen digitally. Save those complex discussions about development for scheduled conferences when you actually have the parent or caregiver's full attention. Consider creating some technology-free opportunities for connection, right? Like family events or parent coffees, where the focus is purely on building community. Some providers worry that technology will maybe create distance between them and families, but when you're using it thoughtfully and intentionally, it actually creates space for deeper in-person connections because it's handling the routine communications efficiently, right? So technology is replacing, or technology is owning those routine, those informational, so that when you get that face-to-face moment, you're not reminding them of the late fees or sending them this form, right? You're actually getting that more meaningful connection. And so this is always a balance, right? In a busy childcare program, personalization can be challenging, but technology makes it more manageable. Always use parents and children's names in your communication rather than generic greetings, right? Try to reference previous conversations or a child's specific interest to show, hey, I'm actually paying attention to this individual child. Consider customizing communication frequency based on family preferences, right? Some parents want daily detailed updates, while others just prefer highlights. And at the same time, one of the more common challenges of digital communication is that it can create this expectation of 24/7 availability, which is not sustainable for you or your staff, right? So I love the option of setting office hours for digital communication, right? So times when parents can expect responses to non-urgent messages. You can create automatic replies to after-hour messages that acknowledge the receipt and set expectations for response time, right? So something along the lines of, thank you for your message. Our business or our communication hours are closed for the day. We will respond when we open again tomorrow at 7 a.m., right? Clearly define what channels should be used for emergencies versus routine communication. And most importantly, right, protect your time and your staff's time and well-being by ensuring that they aren't expected to monitor or respond to messages during their personal time. Remember, the goal of technology is to make communication more efficient, not to create this expectation that providers must be available around the clock, right? Clear boundaries actually improve communication by ensuring that when interactions do occur, providers are also really fully and present and responsive. Now let's explore how technology can specifically enhance your communication about child development, which is at the heart of our work as early childhood professionals, right? These strategies really help parents understand and support their child's growth journey. Digital tools offer powerful ways to document children's development over time. Many platforms, as I said, right, allow you to actually create these digital portfolios for each child where you can collect observations and photos and videos in one organized space. When documenting developmental milestones, try to include visual evidence alongside your notes, right? A video of the toddler's first steps or a photo of a preschooler writing their name. That tells a compelling story. Some platforms actually integrate assessment tools directly with parent communication, so it allows you to share development process or progress in real time. When sharing observations, consider using the learning story format, which not only describes what happens, but explains its developmental significance, right? So, for example, when Jaden built this block tower today, he demonstrated improved fine motor control and spatial awareness, key skills for future writing and math concepts. Wow, what an awesome message to receive, right? And don't forget to invite parents to contribute their own home observations, right? This creates an even more complete picture for each child's development across environments. With that, right, children thrive when there's continuity between their home and childcare experiences. Technology can strengthen these connections in a couple of different ways. Right. So you can share weekly curriculum themes and key vocabulary so parents can reinforce these concepts at home. Right. So, for example, this week we're exploring sink and float concepts. You might ask your child which household objects they think will sink or float in the bathtub. You can also suggest specific home activities that extend classroom learning without requiring special materials or extensive preparation, right? So maybe it's providing digital resources like book recommendations or songs or simple games that can complement your curriculum. You can also, right, create ongoing dialogue about each child's evolving interests across setting, right? Marcus has been fascinated by the bugs and insects that are outdoor time, right? Have you noticed his interest at home is a great example of that. I also think it's important to always offer the insight into the why behind your activities, right? Helping parents understand that when children finger paint, they're developing fine motor skills needed for writing, right? Sensory processing abilities, creative expression, and even early science concepts as they're mixing colors. And this educational component can help parents find even more value and also extend your curriculum rather than just seeing this activity as fun or messy when it comes to finger painting, right? So, with this, right, I think it's really important to discuss also how you can measure the success of your technology enhanced communication and also continuously improve your approach, right? So, the same example that I gave in the beginning, the negative feedback loop where you don't have time, then parents are asking you more questions, and then you have less time, and then less time, right? Switching it more to that positive feedback loop and ensuring, hey, how are you continuously improving your approach? Like many aspects of your program, right? Communication strategies really do benefit from regular reflection and refinement. So, how do you know if they're working, right? There are actually several key performance indicators that are worth tracking. Many digital platforms actually provide parent engagement statistics and metrics like open rates for messages or response rates to requests. These numbers can tell you which types of communication resonate most with families. I also love, right, a regular parent satisfaction survey, specifically focused on communication, can provide direct feedback on what's working and what needs improvement. You can also track staff time that's spent on communication tasks before and after implementing new technology to essentially quantify those efficiency changes, those efficiency gains. Right? You can also monitor, hey, did this improved communication affect retention or enrollment? Right? Many programs actually report that transparent communication becomes a significant enrollment driver over time. And communication strategies should evolve over time based on feedback and changing needs, right? So schedule regular reviews of your communication analytics to identify trends and patterns, right? I think quarterly or at least twice a year is a great cadence for that. Implement structured feedback gathering, not just from parents, but also from staff who are using this technology on a daily basis, right? Maybe even consider periodically testing new features or approaches with a small group before rolling them out program wide. Also, stay current with technological developments in the childcare field, whether that's professional organizations or networks or trainings just like this one. And don't forget, right? Effective communication is a skill that improves with practice and with professional development. Before we conclude, here are some common mistakes that providers may make when implementing technology for parent communication. First is technology overload, right? Trying to implement too many tools at once, which overwhelms staff, overwhelms parents, also overwhelming to you, right? Start with one solution and master it before adding another. Second is inconsistent usage, right? Not establishing clear protocols for how and when a staff should be using technology or even parents, right? This creates confusion when some teachers communicate differently than others. I always like to say a policy is only a policy if it is accurately and consistently and fairly implemented, right? So if one teacher does this one policy, but the other teacher doesn't, hey, guess what? It's not a policy, right? And so making sure that you have these clear outlines, right? So you know, hey, we are doing this, hold people accountable, reinforce this expectation for staff members, for parents to ensure that it becomes routine, right? Third are privacy pitfalls. Sharing photos or information without proper permission, right? Always get explicit consent for how children's images and information will be used. Another mistake is digital dependency, right? So actually relying too heavily on technology so that you're actually left scrambling if the systems go down, or if the power goes out, or if parents don't have access. Always have backup plans, right? Many providers also fall into the trap of one-way communication. So, using technology only to push out announcements rather than creating opportunities for parent engagement and feedback. And finally, right, technology as just an impersonal approach. Using generic templates without customization makes parents feel like they're just another number, right? Remember, saying this once again, technology should enhance your personal connections. It should not replace them. By avoiding these common pitfalls, you'll create a communication system that truly serves your program's needs and can really strengthen the relationship that you have with your staff, your parents, and even, right, your children in your care. With that, y'all, I do want to open the floor to any questions. So feel free if you'd like, if you have any questions on this content to put it in the Zoom chat. You can also unmute and ask a question here if you'd like. If anyone is in the Spanish interpretation room, I can have Magdalena, our interpreter, also ask that question too. So giving folks a moment here if you have any questions. Okay, wonderful. If anything comes up, floor is still yours. So feel free to unmute as we wrap up. I have just a couple slides here, or feel free to put your question in the chat before we wrap up within the next several minutes. So as we wrap up today, I want to leave you with just a few key takeaways, right? First, start small. Build your digital communication gradually. You do not need to implement all of these strategies at once, right? Also, choose tools that match your program's specific needs rather than the ones with the most features. I know it looks shiny and fun and new, right? Oh, it does all of these things. Is it actually what you need? Focus on also quality over quantity in your communications, right? Parents value more meaningful updates rather than more frequent ones, right? I also think sometimes there's a danger of over communicating. If you're sending, right, 20 push notifications to a parent a day, and one of them is actually really important, guess what? It's probably clouded in the other 19 that are not, right? And always balance technology with meaningful personal interaction. This relationship is still at the heart of what we do. With that, y'all, thank you so much for your time and attention today. By enhancing your parent communication with thoughtfully and intentionally implemented technology, you're not only making your job more manageable, but also strengthening, right, that vital partnership between families and providers that supports children's optimal development. I wish you all the best as you explore these tools and strategies in your own program. In case you had any questions, or maybe they come up later after today's webinar, know that the Tom Copeland blog is full of information, and most likely you'll actually find the answer to your question there. If not, please submit your questions through the Ask the Experts portal. These questions are answered monthly, and subscribe to our monthly newsletter to stay in the know. For more information, please visit the DECAL Thriving Childcare Business Academy website at www.decal.ga.gov/thriving. There, you can browse our entire library of self-study guides on topics related to your childcare business. You can learn about and register for our upcoming webinars and register for our small study groups. So these are study groups that are capped at 10 participants. Great opportunity for you to take a deeper dive in topics that are relevant to running a childcare business right now. We also offer a bunch of individual coaching sessions. So I also want to take a moment. If anyone is interested in getting enrolled in either a small study group or an individual coaching session for one of the topics that you see on your screen, please message me in the chat and I will have someone send you the link to get you solidified. Maybe it's an individual coaching session on something that we chatted about today, right? You're like, hey, Eva, I love this idea of implementing a CCMS, but I need a little bit more help doing some research, right? You can sign up for an individual coaching session so we can provide that one-on-one guidance for you. One of our most popular individual sessions is tax education. So we will actually, you can work with a coach to review your previous tax returns. We actually did some metric measuring here, and we found that our assistance through these tax education sessions, both in Georgia, but with also providers across the country, has saved providers on average $7,600 on your taxes a year. This is a free resource. If you want to save $7,600 on your taxes, definitely recommend scanning this QR code, signing up, or you can also message me in the Zoom chat and we can get that solidified for you. Perfect. Awesome. I see you, Mary Jane. Thank you. With that, y'all, please make sure to join us for our next webinar on August 16th, or August 18th, rather, at 6 p.m., where, hey, guess what? We're talking about maximizing your tax savings, proactive planning for the year end. Feel free to scan the QR code to get that scheduled. I will also put the link in the chat for you all. And then here it is in Spanish as well. But with that, y'all, you are all free to go. Thank you all so much for joining. I hope you found some implementable and insightful actions and tips and just learning from this technology session.